Welcome back to the WebCast. It is Friday, so that means college football. We got Doug with us. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the WebCast, All Sports One Web. It is Friday. We are entering Week 11 in college football. The second week of the college football playoff rankings were released last Tuesday. So Doug and I are going to give you our picks for that, our top six, and then our picks for Week 11, which has some great matchups across college football. So we will get through into those. We do all of our picks here on the WebCast through ESPN. On Tuesdays, we do our NFL picks. On Wednesdays, we do our Premier League picks. And on Fridays, we do our college football picks. So go ahead and make your account and pick along with us. Only 3 weeks left in the regular season in college football. It is coming down to the wire. Every game is more and more important, and we're going to get into those. But, Doug, we have to start with the college football playoff rankings. Came out on Tuesday. Georgia, after their impressive beatdown of Tennessee, go to 1. Tennessee only fall to 5 after that. Big reason why is because Georgia also beat Oregon even more embarrassingly than they beat Tennessee. So Oregon had to be behind Tennessee, and with one loss, they sit there at 6. Ohio State at number 2 with Michigan 3, and TCU breaking into the top 4 for the first time after being ranked behind Alabama at the end of last week. Alabama losing to LSU, who now sits 7th. Alabama falling to 10th as well. So a lot of shakeup in these rankings, but I think overall a lot of understood shakeup and kind of as many people may have expected. What are your thoughts on these top 10 here that we see from the college football playoff rankings? And then what would you have as your top 6?
This is pretty good. I actually agree with all of it. I think this would be my top 6. I think even in this order is perfect. And even for the top 10, I mean, I just agree. I agree with it all. It finally, to me, it came back to where it should be, or where I was closer to what I was thinking. And Clemson, with the loss, they did drop down to 12. I didn't know that they would drop that far, but I guess it does make sense from a three-loss Notre Dame team, really beating
Who
them.
lost to Marshall.
Yeah, and they beat them pretty bad. So I do think they deserve to go down that far. They have their quarterback issues. We've kind of been screaming it the whole time on the show here. We don't think Clemson is as good as everybody thinks they are. They're just going to win the ACC, but that doesn't mean anything.
Hey, we will see if they will win the ACC. All right.
The ACC.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter anymore because now that there won't be an undefeated ACC team, then we can have a true 4 best teams in college football going in without anybody feeling like they get snubbed. Maybe. I mean, obviously there's still going to be a couple questionables here and there, but I don't think it's going to be. It may just be a questionable call because there's only 4 spots instead of Clemson won the ACC, they have to be in, regardless of how good we think they are. Now it's, okay, well, we just think that they're better than, like, say, Oregon gets in over TCU. Well, we just think they're better than you. But now it's not, well, Clemson won the ACC.
Yeah.
It's just
they kind of lose all of the power that they had in terms of the mystique of being unbeaten. And let's say that TCU go and run the table. So we got Georgia running the table and TCU running the table as our 2 locked in there. Obviously, you go undefeated in a Power 5, you're going to get in. So TCU, Georgia in this hypothetical. Ohio State play Michigan. Obviously, one's going to take an L, but the other, let's say, goes on and wins the whole Big Ten, staying undefeated. There you go. There's your 3rd spot. So between that 4th spot now, we have things have really opened up with Clemson losing, Alabama losing, and Tennessee all losing. Tennessee sits there with 1 loss, but won't be playing in the SEC championship game. Alabama sits there, or is practically out now. LSU is in the driver's seat now to make the SEC championship game, but will then have 3 losses. assuming they lose to Georgia. Oregon could be the Pac-12 champion at 1 loss. Michigan or Ohio State would be a 1-loss team that their only loss is to a team in the top 4, similar to Oregon, but they won't be playing for a Big Ten championship. So for you, does that put Oregon now, Oregon, even though they currently sit 6 here behind Tennessee and behind Ohio State and Michigan because they haven't lost yet, does that put Oregon in the driver's seat for you to get that 4th spot?
I think if Oregon, USC, or UCLA, if they win out and win the Pac-12, I think they're in.
So they would leapfrog a Tennessee who only lost to a Georgia. They would leapfrog a Michigan or Ohio State who only lost to each other in your opinion.
So because they are the Pac-12 champion. And I think that's how, like, we've been kind of preaching it the whole time. You win on the field. You win your conference, you get in. And obviously we're not to that point yet. But I think since the Pac-12 is showing, they have 3 teams in the top 10. They're not a bad conference. They all played each other, and then they will probably play each other again in the Pac-12. One of them, obviously. I think you kind of have to. Now, say Ohio State does win the game and then they win the Big Ten championship. To me, it depends on how badly Michigan plays. Like, if it's a great game through and through and it's a nail-biter until the finish, it's tough to take them out. Same thing with, like, Tennessee. I don't know who else they play, but regardless of how good they play, if there is a 1-loss Pac-12 champion, I just think it's really hard for them to not be number 4. And I think it's unfair to not be number 4.
I would agree. I think, you have to win your conference. And for some of these teams like an Ohio State, a Michigan, a Tennessee, 2 of those teams will not win their division within their conference, let alone their conference overall. So I think I agree. I am excited now because I feel like with last weekend's slate of games and the way the results fell, this brings the Pac-12, which after week 1 with Utah's loss to Florida, Oregon's just skull-dragging performance against Georgia, we thought the Pac-12 was dead after week 1. I think I even said that in one of our first episodes here, that the Pac-12 was already dead in terms of the college football playoff. But I feel as though with Bo Nix and Oregon, the way that they've been performing, USC keeping strong, UCLA having that great performance up until that Oregon game has really let the Pac-12 back into this. And I'm excited to see now we have the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the Pac-12 all fighting for spots here. And it's super exciting. For me personally, I agree, similar to you, with these top 10 from the college football playoff. But for my rankings last week, I had Georgia and Michigan ahead of Ohio State last week. I will keep that still for this week. So I would flip Georgia's performance against Tennessee, I think, is one of the best performances we've seen. And so that for me would jump them up to number 1. And then I would have Michigan and Ohio State at 3, TCU at 4. And then I'm okay with Tennessee ahead of Oregon because of that common opponent in Georgia, and Tennessee performing better and maybe have a better win. They each have a good win. Oregon over UCLA, who sit 9th, Tennessee with a win over Alabama, who sit 10, as well as a win over LSU, who sit 11. So I am okay with Tennessee ahead of Oregon there. And I'm excited to see the end of these these ends of these next 3 weeks and see how this sorts itself out more. So let's go ahead and dive into our week 11 picks here on the webcast. Again, we do everything through ESPN. But before we start doing that, Doug, trivia question for today that I'm going to leave up here. Get your answers in the comments below, and I will give you the answer to this at the end of this segment, and we will see how many of you get it right. Which QB in college football is first in touchdowns with 31, third in QBR, fourth in completion percentage, and has only 3 interceptions on the year? You want to give it some thought, or you got a off the cuff guess here, Doug?
I think it's the North Carolina quarterback.
So you're going with Drake May here.
Drake May. That's my guess. I'm not confident, but that's my guess. He's been playing
all right. Yeah, he's been playing absolutely fantastic. Definitely getting himself into the mix there at the Heisman conversation. So we will reveal the answer at the end here. I'll leave it up, and we will reveal that once we are done. But we start off here with LSU coming
Well,
off
first,
that great.
I want to say how impressed I am with Oregon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
After getting beat so bad, I wrote them off instantly, and they've won 8 straight games, and they've shut me up.
Impressively as well.
They've proved me wrong. And I thought USC and UCLA were the real deal in the Pac-12. They still are, but Oregon showing that they're not the only 2 teams in the Pac-12. That's all. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Especially with Bo Nix.
Eating my words.
Yeah, especially with Bo Nix's performances at Auburn and the SEC. We've seen him go against Georgia many times. We've seen it end terribly. We saw it end terribly with Oregon. We've seen his performances overall just not be the level that we would expect a quarterback who is in the college football playoff being, but he's really kind of flourished now there in Oregon. The wins that they have under their belt, absolutely dismantling UCLA a couple weeks ago, obviously super impressive. So all the power is with Bo Nix and Oregon. I think they control their own destiny. Another team that controls their own destiny now after that 2-point conversion late against Alabama there in the Bayou. The LSU Tigers travel to Arkansas to keep their quest for SEC glory alive. What do you feel Arkansas losing to Liberty at home last time out? How do you see this one going?
I'm pretty sure we talked about that game. I think it was on the last week, and we said there's just, Arkansas is too good to lose to Liberty. Liberty's a good team and all that. I'm pretty sure that's how that conversation went. And then Liberty comes in and they just beat the crap out of Arkansas. So, yeah, I think LSU has 0 problems with Arkansas. They're going to be riding that massive high. When's the last time they beat Alabama? I think like 2010 or something like that.
Oh, LSU? No? Oh, it must have been Joe Burrow's year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Either way, 2010 was the last time that Nick Saban had like a 2-loss season or something.
Yeah, that seems right.
Ridiculous. But yeah, LSU are too good. They're going to be riding that high of beating Alabama, and there's no shot for Arkansas in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm rooting. I'm going for an LSU win here. We'll see, though. It could be kind of a trap game after the high of beating Alabama, the energy, the overtime fashion of which they did that. I think, well, at the end of the game, not really overtime fashion, but and so I like. Oh, yeah, there was an overtime. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so LSU. I like LSU in this one. I think they ride that into a victory there in Arkansas. Purdue versus the 21-ranked Fighting Illini took an L to Michigan State after everybody was praising their defense and praising that they could be a contender, playing Michigan at the end of the end of the season here, right before the Ohio State game, as kind of a trap game. Maybe they can get one over Michigan, go to the Big Ten championship game from the East side, and then take on whoever wins out of Michigan, Ohio State. So either Michigan again or Ohio State, and then give themselves a chance to get the Big Ten crown. But a loss to Michigan State kind of pushed them down the rankings here. But do they have enough to beat Purdue at home?
I think so. I mean, I think Purdue doesn't have a good enough offense Illinois still has a great defense. Statistically, they had a bad game. Michigan State, they're a good team. They're not a bad team. They have a lot of great athletes on their team. So I think that it was, maybe they didn't take them serious enough. I'm not sure, but I think Illinois, they're going to learn from their mistakes, and they're going to definitely put that into use against Purdue.
I agree. I think just the defense is always going to show up, and so I think that will be too much for Purdue. So I am going with the Fighting Illini to hopefully move up the rankings maybe a little bit before they take on Michigan. And see what they can do in that one. Iowa State now travels to Oklahoma State as the 18th ranked Cowboys look to kind of try and get back into that second spot in the Big 12. Who do you got in this one?
I was singing Oklahoma State's praises when they were undefeated, and then they just kind of fell off. I can't understand what happened to them. They just look like a completely different team. They were playing so well, really, fighting out some tough, gritty wins. And now they're just they're kind of playing mediocre, and I don't think they even deserve to be ranked in the top 25 the way they're playing. Their schedule says maybe they do deserve it, but I don't know. I think they do beat Iowa State in this game, but I don't think that they really have a shot for the Big 12 at all. I think they're out of it, and even if they somehow manage to get to the Big 12 championship game, I think they get demolished by whoever they play. I don't see them being as good as I thought they were. And, as good as they were playing about the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you go back a couple of weeks ago, they had a very large lead against TCU away from home, and they blew that one in double overtime. They go on the next week and play Texas with Quinn Ewers back, get a win there against Texas. If they just did not have that little blip against TCU, they would have been probably a top 6 team at the time, undefeated. Absolutely. Good wins against TCU and Texas. And then they go ahead, play Kansas State and Kansas, and against the state of Kansas, allow 85 points and score 16.
Yeah,
so they've kind of turned from Oklahoma State into Oklahoma. Is that what it is? One team from Oklahoma has to get blown out all the time. I do think they do have enough against the Cyclones here, being at home. I think maybe a little bit of a rebound. I don't see them losing 3 on the bounce here. So I do like the Cowboys at home here, but it's just been a weird fall off from those 2 games against TCU and Texas to then play Kansas State and Kansas and perform like that has been shocking.
Yeah, even the way they played TCU, I still thought that this team was going to win the Big 12. Like I was on the bandwagon. Then they beat Texas. I went, yeah, they're still the real deal. They lost against a good TCU team, but that doesn't mean that they're worse than them. Doesn't mean they can't still do it. And then they go to Kansas or Kansas State, just the state of Kansas, and they just show everybody that maybe they got demoralized from the TCU game or something. I don't know, but I agree. I think they have enough to get past the Cyclones in this one.
Yep. So they will be keeping their hopes to get into that second spot, 1 game out of Texas, who currently sit in that second spot. Alabama, whose hopes kind of died last week in the Bayou, take on Ole Miss, who was on a bye. They sit at 1 loss, giving themselves the chance to possibly do something in the SEC West there, but they're going to need some help from maybe Arkansas this week to beat LSU for Ole Miss to kind of jump into that driver's seat. Who would have thought Ole Miss still with a better chance at this point to make the SEC championship game than Alabama? But in order to do that, they got to beat Alabama at home. Lane Kiffin against Nick Saban. Who do you got?
Ole Miss is playing some really, really good football. And Alabama they're playing good football, but they're getting beat.
On the road.
I mean, I don't think anybody can ever really say Alabama to lose 3 in a row, or not 3 in a row, but to lose 3 games in a season, 2 in a row. That's really tough. But I really want to pick it because I think Ole Miss are a good team. I think they play well at home, and I think Alabama doesn't play as well on the road. I'm going to go with Ole Miss in this game. I think Alabama, they're a great team. They're a great team, but they are on the road, and they're struggling. This big loss against LSU, demoralizing for that team. But they do have Nick Saban, who's a great coach. He knows how to, get his team to react in the right way, not get down, but get angry. Play harder, practice harder. But I like Ole Miss in this game. I think they finally feel like, hey, we have a chance. This is a must win. Let's go out and show them. They're obviously not invincible. Like everybody kind of always seems scared of Alabama because they just seems like they couldn't get beat in any way. I mean, they couldn't get beat in any aspect of the game. Special teams, offense, defense, coaching, doesn't matter. They can't lose. Well, now they've lost a few times. And so I think Ole Miss is going to exploit that. Lane Kiffin, I think he's going to do a good job with this team, as he has been, and I think they're going to get the win.
Yeah, I have nothing but an Alabama roll in this one. Jackson Dart coming over from USC has been okay. I mean, pretty good. Lane Kiffin, obviously, the offensive mind that he is. has been fantastic. But Ole Miss got absolutely obliterated by LSU. I think the scoreline flattered them a little bit, only losing by 25 in that one. Alabama, obviously, last week playing LSU very close in the Bayou, under the lights as well. I think night games as well play a bigger impact in terms of college football atmosphere. You have all day to kind of prepare for it. And just something about being under the lights, just it gives everybody that little bit of extra energy. And traveling into an environment like that, I think is just, I don't know if there's a harder environment than playing away to LSU at night under the lights. So I like Alabama in this one, even if Ole Miss have a week to prepare for it. I think this is where, but it's interesting if we don't know. I don't even know when the last time Alabama lost 3 games, as you mentioned. And Nick Saban has had a career of beating his former assistants until last year when Kirby Smart took the Bulldogs in the national championship and beat Alabama. It has now happened multiple times this year, especially if Lane Kiffin get the win in this one. So it seems like we are getting towards the end maybe of an era here with Nick Saban being as dominant as he was from a coaching perspective. We've seen the number of penalties that Alabama has had, especially on the road, 17 penalties against Tennessee when they lost out there at the end. So I think they will clean it up a little bit, and I think they will have with Bryce Young too much for LSU, especially this being an afternoon game, not as pumped of an atmosphere as the likes of a Tennessee or a LSU at night. So I like Alabama.
Well, hey, the time change, it's going to be dark by like 5 o'clock now.
So it's practically under the lights.
It's practically a night game.
Yeah.
So you're going Alabama. I mean, it's hard for me. I'm kind of picking Ole Miss as the upset, even though they're
as the hope.
Yeah, as the hope. But it doesn't. I don't think this game, in the grand scheme of things, this game really doesn't matter much. I don't think, because
if Ole Miss wins it and LSU can stumble once, then we'll have Ole Miss sitting in the driver's seat for the SEC West, which would be incredible.
But do you see them beating Georgia?
No one's beating Georgia, but that's
exactly.
Not the point.
So that's why I don't think, as far as the playoff race goes, I don't think that this game really means much except for just a good win for your team. Yeah. Because I don't think either of these teams are going to make the playoff. Because I don't see Michigan, already out ruling Ohio State losing to anybody but each other until the playoff. There's no way that we lose. Basically, Michigan or Ohio State is going to be the winner of the game and the Big Ten champion, and then number 2 in the country. That's just how it's going to go. And I don't really see anything else. Yeah, I don't see anything else happening. I see TCU winning it all in the winning the Big 12 if they keep rolling. And I just don't see how one of these two teams can squeeze in with Oregon, USC, and UCLA.
I'll tell you what, Ole Miss controls their own destiny if LSU loses. So if LSU can pick up a loss sometime between now and the end of the season, we've seen them play poorly, especially early on in the season, not of late, so you don't expect it to happen, but any given Saturday. And Ole Miss beats Alabama. They'll win against Alabama on their resume. And then let's see, who do they got? I think Ole Miss. They already play. Oh yeah, Tennessee's on the other side. Yeah, so they got Arkansas and Mississippi State after Alabama. They could win both of those games. They're going to be favored in both of those games. So they go out, win out, one loss going into the SEC championship game, and then beat Georgia. They are going to the playoff.
No, if they beat Georgia, then that's different.
Yeah, but if they lose this game, they're done. They're completely done. So it kind of matters for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I guess, but do we really seeing that happening though? You're not even picking them to win this game.
Hey. Yeah, I guess. All right. Let's see. Tulane in 2024, when I expect the college football playoff to actually expand, even though it's only set to be 2026. I think we're going to have a very interesting summer like we had the last 2 summers in college football. And I think that it will expand for next season. So 2023, I think they will have it set for 2024. So not next season, but the following season. And in which case, Tulane would be the highest rank conference winner if all holds in the college football playoff ranking, and they would be getting a spot to the college football playoff. But UCF with a win in this game So the momentum of this game would be huge because if UCF could get a win over Tulane, they would then be ahead of them in the rankings. If they can go out and win their conference, they would be the team going to the college football playoff. However, that is not the case. Both these teams have no shot of going to the college football playoff. Who do you got? UCF and Tulane in Louisiana.
I got Tulane at home.
Or sorry, not Louisiana, Oklahoma. Where's Tulane? Oklahoma.
I don't know.
you got the Green Wave at home. UCF has been on here a couple of times lately. We had them with that poor performance up at East Carolina, then at home when they welcomed in, I think it was Cincinnati, and they had a great performance there with the Plumlee brother there at UCF. He's not related, but I don't know that many Plumleys, so I'm grouping them together. And so we'll see what they can do on the road. You know, obviously the demolishing there to East Carolina. I expect road games have been tough for them, so I got Tulane as well at home over the Golden Knights. Two teams that we've expected more of.
Way more of than this.
And they just have not been going. One team will become bowl eligible with a win this weekend. Who will that be?
I think it's Wisconsin. I think Iowa cannot score, period. Their offense is terrible. And that's it. I mean,
that's it. They're just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, they score, period. They've shown it
they
through and through, time and time again. They just cannot score. They have zero offense. They have a good defense, but good defense with a terrible offense means nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did score 24 points last time out against Purdue.
So. Purdue is also not a good team.
Yeah, the sports book has this as even it being in Iowa City. It is an afternoon game. One of the great traditions there is the wave to the Children's Hospital right above the stadium. So that is fantastic. But I agree. I think the Badgers will be a little bit too much in terms of the offense that they can put up versus the offense that Iowa can put up even at home. So I am with you on rolling with the Badgers. Kansas State.
Just what a shame. What a shame. The Big Ten is such a better conference when these two teams are good.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
and it's just a shame that they're not this year. We thought at least one of them would be.
Yeah, the Big Ten West has just been
abysmal.
Kansas State, a team that can beat anyone on their day and lose to anyone on their day. Take on Baylor. Both are right there looking to get in to that second seed, try to unseat Texas. So this game will go a long way in deciding who's going to have that pole position going into the last two games of the season. It is in Waco for this one. You got the Baylor Bears at home. Are you rolling with the 64% that got Kansas State to go into Texas and get the win?
This is going to be a really good game. I think this is very, very evenly matched. Kansas State do have some pretty big wins on their resume, and I like Adrian Martinez. I think he is an X factor for this team, and I think for that reason that Kansas State is going to win. But I would not be surprised if Baylor does come out and win this game. I think they're a fantastic football team. I think they have a lot of work to do, but same kind of thing. I think on their day they can beat a lot of teams. But I think Kansas State has the edge a little bit against Baylor in this one.
Yeah, Baylor returning after a 2-game win streak on the road, returning home to Waco, I think gives them a little bit of an edge, actually.
I'm not opposed to this one. To me, this is a kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, and I think one of the hardest things to do in the Big 12 is to string together wins because you are playing some top teams week in, week out. Kansas State is running off of away to Iowa State, away to TCU, home to Oklahoma State, and home to Texas as their strength of schedule going into this one. So for that reason, I think it's just a little bit too much for them to go on the road in Waco and keep 4 quarters together. Adrian Martinez, as great of a game manager, a threat with his legs, always allows him to extend drives when things aren't going well. I think over 4 quarters, I think Baylor will battle back enough to be able to get the win in this one and put themselves in a good position to fight for that last spot in the Big 12 championship game. I guess we've kind of already booked TCU in there, but I got Baylor in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you can persuade me on this one. Like I said, this is going to be a great game. I think it's, to me, it's too close to really call. But since we have to pick, I just chose Kansas State. But I agree. I mean, playing anybody at home makes a difference, especially in college football. And it's a 7:00 game. You've been talking about it. Just playing under the lights in a college football game is just different.
Yeah,
so I'm okay with a Baylor win.
All right, so let's go to the other under the lights game in the Big 12. TCU at Texas, the battle of the top two currently sitting in the Big 12. TCU at number 4 in the rankings as they are undefeated. Every test that's been thrown at them, even when you think they're about to lose, they storm back in the second half, win games in overtime. They have great grit, and with Duggan there at quarterback, they could really go toe-to-toe with anyone. But is Texas going to be too much for them after their great win last week against Kansas State? Do you think the Longhorns will ride it there at home under the lights?
It just depends on which Texas shows up. If the Texas that, played the Kansas State, that played against Alabama for the first quarter, that team can beat anybody. It's just sometimes they don't always play like that. Quinn Ewers is great, but he's showing, some signs of how young he is. He needs some more time. He's going to be a great quarterback for the future. I think he's a good quarterback now, but just he needs a little bit of time. He does have a few mistakes in him. I think TCU are a better overall team. I think they have the tough wins already. And, I think that they're fully ready for this game. They think they have the intensity. They think they can win. They think they can make the playoff. They think they can win the national championship. I think that they go into Texas under the lights and beat the Longhorns.
Oh, all right. I'm going to have another. Do we have another debate on our hands here? You know how high I was about Texas when Quinn Ewers, even after the Alabama game, I had Texas riding high. That they were going to be the team that wins the Big 12. No one was. I even think I claimed on here that no one would beat them with Quinn Ewers. Obviously, I was wrong. I think Oklahoma State a couple weeks ago got that win there. What did I say about Tennessee?
That they were going to beat Georgia.
Hey, we had a consensus ranking at the end there. I don't know what you're talking about. I remember picking Georgia in that game.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my main point here, Texas. Quinn Ewers, I just got some stats for you here. Quinn Ewers, away from home this season, 52% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. At home, right? And we've seen the teams that he's played at home, the likes of Alabama, I think Oklahoma State as well. 67% completions, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. So as a young quarterback, it's more expected, playing on the road, definitely more difficult. Playing in big games on the road, even more difficult. And so playing good teams in big games on the road is the most difficult. And we've seen him struggle maybe a little bit there. But playing at home, I think he's been fantastic in terms of his performance. Bijan Robinson is just getting better and better and better. And I actually like Texas to get play 4 quarters of solid football, which we haven't seen a team really do against TCU. We've seen 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 quarters of good football against TCU. TCU plays 4 good quarters of football. And if you can't play 4 good quarters of football against them, you will lose. And I like Texas at home under the lights to play 4 good quarters of football. And I like Quinn Ewers over Max Duggan. And therefore, I got Texas walking out with a win.
That's my problem. I think if Texas does play 4 good quarters, I think they can win. But if TCU plays 3 good quarters, well, really, they play 4 good quarters always. But even if they have a bad quarter, I think, Texas they have to put an entire 60 minutes together to beat TCU. And I don't know if they can do that. I don't know. One mistake from Quinn Ewers, and
he doesn't make mistakes at home.
He's young.
Doesn't.
He's young.
And that's why this is his game. This is his game right now to announce himself. He didn't get to play against Alabama all 4 quarters and get that signature win against a top-ranked team. This, however, is his opportunity to get that win, and I think he takes it. I think he has a absolute fantastic performance against TCU and is a big reason why Texas will go on to win the Big 12.
Well, didn't they lose to Oklahoma State?
Yeah, on the road. It doesn't count.
But
saying at home.
But it's the same kind of thing. You never know what team you're going to get with Texas. TCU play good at all times, always.
Yeah,
never bad. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Texas are capable of winning this game. I just don't think they will.
All right, pick a number, 1 or 2.
2.
It's always 2. We'll go with TCU. All right, TCU roll into Texas to get the win. We need another panel member so I can convince them to join my side. And before we get into this game, we have the answer to our question. Which QB is first in the country in touchdowns at 31, third in the country in QBR, fourth in the country in completion percentage at 71.2%, and only has 3 interceptions on the year? A person who is not getting that much notice and that much Heisman consideration amongst the others, like your Bryce Young, your CJ Stroud, your Hendon Hooker, your Corum at Michigan. And that is one and only Drake May of UNC. North Carolina quarterback having a amazing freshman season there.
Don't forget, he's a freshman.
And he's a freshman, so absolutely fantastic and really controlling their own destiny now. The ACC moving to that Big 12 format. Top 2 teams are going to play each other again. North Carolina controls their own destiny, sitting at 1 loss so far. They take on Wake Forest, and the Demon Deacons can put up some points, especially at home. But who do you got? North Carolina and Wake Forest.
I think the problem isn't if you can put up points on North Carolina. The problem is if you can stop them from putting up more points than you do. Because we've seen time and time again, the double overtime or whatever it was against Appalachian State. They just don't give up, and they score and score and score. I think that Drake May is the real deal, and I think he will carry this team to victory into Wake Forest. I think it's going to be a good game. But
I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
Scoring game.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
North Carolina will win.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that one. I think that the powder blue Tar Heels, one of the best uniforms in all of sports, is going to get it done there on the road at Wake Forest. And get the win under the lights. Another team under the lights, 7:30 p.m. Western Pacific time zone. San Diego State, has a reputation of producing some good star players. They take on 6-2 San Jose State in the Battle of California. Who do you got?
Under the lights, at home, I have San Diego State winning this game. I think they will out.
Yeah, let's roll San Diego State 5-4, moving to 6-4 on the season, and that completes our picks here on the WebCast Sports. What's our record going into this one? We are looking to crack the top 100,000 as we are going for number 1 ranking. We only got 3 weeks left, so we're going to have to pick up the pace here in college football. 44-35 record going into this one. Go ahead and make your account and pick for these last 3 weeks as we really heat up in the season to see who is going to the college football playoff. For all of us here at the WebCast, enjoy the sports weekend, and we are going to see you on Tuesday for when we recap Week 10 of the NFL and preview Week 11 for you there. We also got a lot of World Cup content as we are 9 days away from kickoff in Qatar. The rosters are all being announced: Spain, Germany, France, Portugal, U.S., Brazil, all have been releasing their rosters this past week. So we are going to dive into those. We got a Group B breakdown, which is the U.S.'s group with Wales, England, and Iran. And we're going to get you ready for all of those games, which kick off on the 21st of November in Qatar. So for all of us at the WebCast, I'm Adam, and that's Doug, and we will see you on Tuesday.